If immortality were real, how long until you'd want out? In this episode of the Twilight Zone, a man signs away his soul for the promise of eternal life. No sickness, no aging, no limits. At first it seems like a dream until he realizes the thrill of life fades when you can't lose it. And when there's no death, prison becomes forever. That's when he remembers the escape clause. Today's tarot questions ask the deeper questions hidden within this eerie tale. Who would offer us immortality and why? What would it really cost to live forever? And would we even want it once the mystery is gone? Let's step into the unknown and draw the cards, because sometimes the scariest trap is getting exactly what you wished for. Hello everybody, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time on my channel. So we're going to hop right into this Twilight Zone inspired episode 6 with the first question, which is, who or what could tempt humanity with immortality? And what would be that powerful being's motivation to do so? Providing it is a being. We don't know who or what it is. So let us see. Ooh, just knocking stuff all over the place here. Starting out with Oracle. We'll be moving on to Tarot then. So we have Little Willie. And Red Dawn. Sixth Sense. Oh, there it goes. And Signs. Okay. And the question again, who or what could tempt humanity with immortality? And perhaps it'll also share what their motivation would be to do so. I feel like whoever this is kind of young, teenage years, in fact. And again, we have that reiterated here with the teenagers that are in Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn. Also, I feel like this individual or this being is kind of rebellious, as a teenager would be. And obviously in the movie, they were rebellious against those who were taking over the town. They had strength. They were just wise enough to be able to go out on their own and fight against those adults who were invading. So again, I feel as though this individual is kind of mentally the age of a teenager, but that they have a sixth sense about what could happen with humanity and immortality. They've seen signs of how perhaps we might react, and maybe they've actually even spent a little time studying, though I mean, we have a teenager here, somebody in school. Maybe this is a school project for this being. School project to offer humanity immortality. We don't know. Phenomenon. Michael. Don't stop. Okay, this happened in another reading also, where I had these two cards, only they were stacked here. And These have been shuffled. They get tucked in. It's kind of weird. But anyway, with phenomenon, this is a being that has special powers. And with Michael, I'm going to say equivalent to an angel. Like it says on the card, he's an angel, not a saint. Oh, this is too funny. Okay, so we have a young angel who has a sixth sense. And again, maybe it is kind of like a teenage angel, teenage being who we are his school project. And with Don't Stop, this is kind of a new adventure for us and for this being. So let's see what tarot has to share. Ooh. See if I'm far off on this or... All right. We have 10 of Swords. Yeah, this being, there's something that they need to prove to somebody else, maybe an adult or a more, gosh, I don't even know how to say it, an angel, another angel that is higher up. I feel like there's some truth that they really need to complete something, some project. Then we have the Queen of Wands. Something they really care about and are super, super passionate about. They might be young, but they definitely have had this on their mind for a long time. And they finally want to put an end to this that they've been thinking about for a long time. Then we have the Two of Swords. So yeah, it's been a decision. It's been a definite decision. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? What's going to happen if I do it? And they are letting their sixth sense take over and say, yes, it's something that they should do. Six of Swords. For all practical purposes, as far as this being is concerned, it looks like having immortality, the signs that this being has gotten from us is that we would be on cloud 9, basically, with being immortal. Death. So yes, this being wants to use their powers to transform us, to make us immortal. Strength. He's strong enough to do it. And I almost feel like this is, he might be young, okay, but he's very strong. His powers are very strong. So I don't really see anything right here with any adult that is trying to change anything or keep him from doing it. That's why I'm almost thinking it's a school project. Because when you look here, we have little Willie, and you know, little Willie is a teen, and we have, or a young person, and we have the young people here. We have a young person here, and this adult is, oh, if you haven't seen the movie, well, they're an adult, but they don't really count. I don't want to give it away. Pretty much everybody's seen it probably, but you know. And then in signs, we do have 2 adults and 2 children. These 2 children are extremely inquisitive and extremely intelligent children. And Mel Gibson is a pastor in this, a minister in this show. So again, that goes back to the angel. So yeah, I'm thinking this is an angel who, we're a school project. Eight of Pentacles. Yeah, this is a new adventure. And this being, this angel, wants to plant the seed, wants to allow or wants to offer us immortality as his school project. And I'm going to call it a school project because it sure is looking like it. So let us pick up these cards and move on to the second question and see what else we can find out. And if you're new to this channel, this might be kind of a slow way, or a slower way that you've seen for picking up cards in between questions. But I like to do it this way because it gives me the opportunity to put them in randomly. So then when I shuffle, I feel like they're shuffled well. And because those cards were put in randomly, if they come up again, I know that they're important. Same with the oracle cards here that I use first. I put them in randomly. And that way, if they come up again, I know that they're important. All right, so let us move on to question 2. What hidden human desire might make the offer of immortality irresistible? Could it be having a fear of death or a hunger for power of some sort? Let's see what it says. And who knows, this angel may have looked into that as well. All right, so we have the fog. We have Independence Day. Bird Box. And Red Dawn again. Okay, so question, what hidden human desire might make the offer of immortality irresistible? I don't think humans would really think. I think there's a fog there. In other words, somebody comes and offers immortality, I don't think there's any thinking. It would be, yes, I want immortality. I never want to die. There'd be no hesitation there. They really have no way of seeing what accepting that would be for them. I think what they're seeing is that they would be independent. It's live to see another day, no matter what happens. If they were invaded by, or if we were invaded by aliens, we would live to see another day. The aliens would not be able to hurt us. We couldn't die. I think these are the things that as humans we would be seeing. We could walk in front of a vehicle, get hit, not die. Now that's not to say, and again, this is where the fog comes in a way, at least in my mind, is looking at it from the standpoint if they were out on an ocean and a huge storm came, they could fall in the water, but they wouldn't drown. They wouldn't die. However, they could still be eaten by a shark. Would you be alive in the shark's belly after that? That's kind of gross, right? Obviously, if you're chewed up by a shark, you're not going to yeah, I don't think there's any immortality there. If you are, I think there's limits to this immortality unless you come back in one piece somehow. But then do you live your life inside the belly of this shark? Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of fog here, a lot of things that we really don't know. And sometimes, as humans, we would prefer not to know. Let's just keep our eyes shut and our head buried in the sand. That's probably the better way to go. But the one thing that we would know is that we would stay young. And no matter if, even if there was war, we wouldn't die. So let's move forward, refocus, carry on wayward son, avatar. It would put a whole new twist on life for sure. And for most people, they would feel as though this immortal self was a better version of themselves. But in fact, because it's not natural to us, it would be we're more of an avatar of ourself instead of actually being ourself, if that makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot of fog there, but there's a lot of things that, humans would think about that, and it always comes back to death. We wouldn't be able to die if we were immortal, no matter what happened. Okay, so let's see what Tarot has to share. A lot of questions on that one too. Because, again, like with the shark scenario, Okay, so we've got Knight of Pentacles. And for me, the Knight of Pentacles, this is all about your life. It's like your life quest. For most people, that is very unclear. And so, again, the fog. If somebody offered you immortality, it's not necessarily your life quest, what you came in for, but, that's a fog anyway, so why not? The Hierophant, we've got Independence Day. So the Hierophant, to me, is a teacher or a mentor. And I see this, what's coming to mind right away is this student angel, and their teacher is going, this is not a good idea. Do it as though it's they have the power to pretend, okay? But yet get realism out of it if they want to, without using humans to do it. But yeah, this being wants to be independent and wants to do this, wants to offer immortality to humans. Magician. Yeah, this being knows that you can put pretty much anything in front of most humans and they'll buy the illusion, or they won't see the illusion. So immortality is kind of an illusion. I mean, it isn't, but it is. In other words, you can be immortal and never die, but there's an illusion to it. It isn't just you're going to be super happy because you're immortal. There's much more to that. And then we have the Eight of Wands. Yeah, most humans are going to be super passionate about being immortal, even if they don't really know what it entails. The Hermit. Then there's others. There will be others who have to think about it. They have to consider all options. We have the Hermit here. They're a little bit wiser. And so this angel being would have to figure out a way to kind of refocus them so that he could work his magic. Then we have death. It's transformation. So yeah, for most it's, yes, we want to do it because we're going to become a better version of who we are. We are not going to be able to die, and that is definitely a better person than we came in as. So let's see with the Avatar, 9 of Swords. We've almost got all the truth. Almost. It's almost at number 10. Almost have all the truth, but not quite. It's that last step to the number 10 that is a little bit worrisome. All right, so let us move back on to cleaning up this cards and see what question 3 brings. It's kind of an interesting reading. Definitely went, as many of them do, definitely went completely off of what I thought it was going to, which is always exciting for me. That's kind of why I start with Oracle first, because I feel like Tarot tends to read my mind. And Oracle, I always say, Oracle doesn't care what I think. It just does what it does. So that's why I like to start with Oracle before Tarot. All right. So then, question 3 here. What might happen if fear and risk were removed from the human experience? What might happen if fear and risk were removed from the human experience? If you never had to be afraid of anything. Ain't no mountain high enough. Wow, right? Okay. I don't know where your mind went for that, but I right away went to, if there's no fear or risk, are you going to climb the highest mountain or jump off the highest mountain? That's where my mind went. Okay, then we have the Maltese Falcon. Bringing up baby. And for love of the game. All right, so what might happen if fear and risk were removed from the human experience? Well, there'd be a lot more sports-related things, climbing, high places, maybe bungee jumping, maybe, yeah, climbing the highest mountain, climbing inside a volcano. I mean, it could be anything with that. Any kind of, there's just no mountain high enough. You couldn't stop a person from doing some of the really dangerous things. And here we have the Maltese Falcon. Another possibility is searching for treasure. If you could go underwater as deep as you could possibly go, looking for shipwrecks and that kind of thing, but you couldn't die. Wow, right? Or just buried treasure in places that are so cold and you could freeze to death in minutes, but you can't die. For those people who have always wanted to have children and have not been able to because it's a risk to their health or they could pass on, they could have babies. Somebody could gain enough skill, I guess. If they practiced long and hard, they could gain enough skill to be able to move forward on some kind of sport maybe that they really, really love. Every kind of people. The company she keeps. And black water. Everybody is going to have a different reason or something different that they want to do when risk and fear are completely removed from the human experience. Some of them might want to have romance after romance after romance after romance because they can. And others might want to spend their time trying and learning all different manners of divination in places where it's taboo, even because they can't die. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that can take place when fear, and it's going to be different for everybody. So let us see what the tarot has to say. We have the Page of Wands. Yeah, they're going to go with whatever they're passionate about. And that is the message that comes with this. It's do what you're passionate about. The World. People could go anywhere in the world that they wanted to search for treasure. Anywhere in the world. Even if it was off limits. They can't die. Eight of Wands. Yeah, I think they, with the babies, this is like mastering their passion by having babies as fast as they possibly can. Yeah. The Moon. Seeing things in a completely different light. Realizing that you've got as long as it takes to become good at something. Become good at something that you love. Judgment. Yeah, since everybody has a different idea or something different, that if fear and risk are removed from life, everybody's got something different. Nobody is judging anybody else for what their thoughts are, what their feelings are about, or what their idea is. Six of Swords. This passion, this having somebody different forever because you're never going to grow old, that gives these people peace of mind. And then Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, anything can happen. Anything can happen. If you're digging into divination, every form of divination, anything can happen. Anything can happen with all of this. All right, so let us pick up and see where question 4 leads. So I really, really, really enjoy doing these readings because I never really know what's going to happen. And I hope that you're enjoying them as much as I am. I would love it if you would like and subscribe and perhaps share, because that helps the channel grow. And also, I'd love to hear your take on some of these cards, the cards that I'm laying. Mine is just one opinion as to what I'm reading, but I'd love to hear yours. So go ahead and comment. That would be awesome. So we're almost there for going on to question 4. There are 6 questions in this episode. actually going kind of quick. All right. So question 4, what might be lost emotionally, spiritually, or karmically if humanity was immortal? Now remember, this is all a part of this angel studies. I'm not making fun. That's what the cards came out with, which just wow. All right, so there's the fog again. Same position. Bringing up baby. Witchy woman. And Independence Day. Okay, so what might be lost emotionally, spiritually, karmically if humanity was immortal? Here's the fog card again, and I'm going to say that really can't be answered or known for sure. Humanity certainly isn't going to know. They didn't know what being immortal would actually be like. They saw, some things, but they didn't know. So if you're asking what's lost, who can know? I'm not sure. Now we saw the card that showed, the same card that showed, if there was no risk or fear for those people who couldn't have children and really wanted children, they could go ahead and have baby after baby after baby if they wanted to, because they wouldn't be able to die. Here I wonder if for some they would stop having children because there'd be so much that they wanted to explore without interruption. And with witchy woman here, you're going to find all kinds of evil. And this particular song by the Eagles is about a woman, and they do call her evil. I believe anyway. I'm pretty sure. And just the way that the card is, it just gives you the indication that, and it says danger. So some people could end up being quite dangerous. What would be lost? Their humanity. What keeps them from, and their morals, maybe. People would be so independent and really not thinking of other people. Ain't no mountain high enough again. Kung Fu fighting. And guidance. So, yeah, we've got dangerous situations here. Just people who aren't really worried about what they do to other people. They're independent. They want to do things their own way. And there's nothing to stop them. There's no obstacle to stop them. They're not afraid to fight. And we have guidance here, but some of them might not actually ever see the light about what they're doing. Even if there's spirit guides and other angels and so forth that come down to try to help, might not be enough. So let's see what tarot has to add. All right, so we have 8 of Pentacles. This is definitely not the way to master life, or maybe it is. It would be definitely a trial and error. plant the seed for what you want to do, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, you're not going to die. You come back and do it again and again and again. Then we have the Two of Wands. Yeah, this would be, what is passion good for? Just passion for the sake of passion, or to actually raise children. And I think this would be a decision whether or not to ever have children again, which obviously would cause an issue with population. And the question being, if you're immortal, would your children automatically be immortal? Because you weren't born that way. We had the Avatar card. Another interesting question. Then we have the Nine of Swords. Yeah, this is definitely a worry. Having people be less than moral with those around them, because what's going to happen? If you murdered somebody, they couldn't die. So is it actually murder? Ugh, okay, ew. Anyway, Six of Swords here on Independence Day. Yeah, a lot of people would really love the fact that they are as independent as they are. They can do whatever they want. It is harmony to them. It's what they've always wanted, that they could do anything that they wanted without repercussion. Hanged Man. New perspective needed is what this is saying. It's going to take time, but I think whatever is lost for a period of time with the newness of being immortal, there is going to be a change of perspective eventually. And with the Ten of Cups, I think fighting will eventually turn to love. Eventually. And the Seven of Cups, yeah, there's a lot of love coming to these people. A lot of guidance, a lot of love. But they just might not answer those calls right away. All right, so let us pick these up and see what question 5 has to share with us. So far, I'm not impressed with immortality myself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you think of becoming immortal? Or if you were offered immortality, would you take it? Would you ask questions first? Would you study up on what it might be like? Would you maybe watch the show Highlander? He's immortal. Okay, almost there. Okay. Question 5. If there's no death, would humans still have need of a soul? I understand what they're asking here because, at least in my own beliefs, I believe that it is the soul that chooses the lifetime that we have. Each time. One. So if we couldn't die, there'd be no reason to go back to spirit and choose another life, right? So would we still need a soul? Kung Fu fighting, again. Independence Day. Wow. Jurassic Park. Okay, question again. If there's no death, would humans still have need of a soul? 1. I see emptiness. And I also see a spotlight shining on this chair with nothing on it. So I'm going to say the answer is probably no. There would be no need of a soul. But the soul would not leave the body without a fight. And where would it go? Are there other planets with other beings that need souls? Anyway, where would it go? Would it be independent, like just light with no purpose? Would it be just kind of a skeleton, a thing of the past? Something that people would just forget ever existed? We have Aaron Brockovich, Catch-22, and Spirit in the Sky. And would there be somebody that realizes that the soul is worth fighting for? That the soul, keeping the soul, having a soul is a cause. But then, you know, there's always a catch-22. If you have a soul, how can you be immortal? Do you have to get rid of your soul if you're going to accept immortality? Yeah, it's a catch-22. And we have Spirit in the Sky here, which is the guiding spiritual presence of life, is your soul. But it's telling us right off the bat that no, you wouldn't need it. You would have no more need for that soul. Okay, let's see what tarot has to share here. Yeah, because if you're doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, because your soul, I think, to some degree keeps you honest. If you don't have a soul, you don't really care about anything. Just allegedly. Okay, so we have the Two of Swords. Yeah, if you knew that you couldn't have a soul, would you decide to accept immortality if you had to let your soul go? Two of Wands. And would your soul fight to remain with you? Fool. It would be a risk, definitely a risk, to try and live life that independently. Magician. Yeah, it would, however the soul would look, if it's skeletal, it's going to be an illusion anyway. Because if you're immortal, the soul never existed. You probably wouldn't remember it. It'd be a thing of the past. Four of Pentacles. Yeah, that's hard to say. Would there be anybody to want to hold on to that soul or that memory? Or, yeah, would there be anybody that would want to fight for it if everybody was immortal? Eight of Swords with Catch-22. Yeah. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can say no to the immortality. Yes, you can. But then, of course, at some point, you're going to die. There is a Catch-22 there. Are you a victim? I'm going to say no, because you have choices. You can make the decision. Three of Wands. Your soul is the one that helps you plan your life, helps you plan your passions. Do you really want to let that go? Okay, that got heavy. We have one more question here before the end of this episode. Some of it's pretty sobering, actually, in my opinion. And okay, so there's the tarot. And away goes the oracles. All right, so question 6. What might cause humans to use an escape clause to end their immortality? And the escape clause was in the original Twilight Zone episode. The man didn't want to be immortal anymore, so he found an escape clause in his contract. Okay. So what might cause humans to use an escape clause to end their immortality? So we have Groundhog Day. The Postman. The Giver. And Murder on the Orient Express. Okay, so I think Groundhog Day is probably pretty self-explanatory. What might cause humans to use an escape clause to end their immortality? Every day being the same old, same old, same old. No matter what you tried to change. Bottom line is, same day repeats itself over and over and over again. You can't die. So no matter what happens to you, you're going to wake up the next morning. That would be one cause, perhaps. Seeing so many different kinds of atrocities. Kind of like being a soldier in a battle and watching people die right and left. And, you know, maybe that's not the life that you would like to lead, because it's just not really a pleasant one to see over and over and over again. And with the Giver, there's really nothing that you could give to somebody else that would be valuable. You wouldn't have to give blood because the person would just regenerate anyway. You wouldn't have to give organs, be an organ donor. There's so many, you know, as the Giver, there's things that we give to other people, support, things like that. Nobody would care. They're immortal. Why do they need any of that stuff? And Independence Day kept coming up. They're independent individuals. One. With no soul, okay, mind you. So they really don't care about those things. And then also Murder on the Orient Express, they've died, you know, they've died so many different ways that it's just, who wants to do that over and over and over and over and over? Then we have the Blob, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Twister. And with the Blob, I just feel like this is saying they don't know what they're becoming. They're feeling very blobbish. with all these different things that go on, feeling very blobbish and not really liking who they are. Not Once upon a time we all wanted to be superheroes. When you are a superhero because you're immortal, what more is there? And here you can live through anything. You want to explore a twister? You walk right into it. You die. You've seen it. Again, there's only so many ways that you can stand to die. So many disasters that you can explore. So many crazy acts that you can do and still come out feeling more than a blob. So let's try tarot and see what more it has to share. So we have Page of Wands with Groundhog Day. Yeah, the message for humans is passion. When we're passionate, we have something to look forward to. Groundhog Day is not that. Having every day be the same is not that. No mystery to it anymore. Page of Pentacles. There's no more seed to be planted. There's no more message of life that means anything. Life is death, death is life. It just happens over and over and over and over and over again. The Empress. Can't even be creative in how and what you might want to give to somebody else because you love them. Without a soul, do you love anyone? I don't know. Don't know how that works. Eight of Cups. Yeah, I think people would actually get really sick of dying. Yeah. And if somebody just had a bad day and if you decided you didn't want to die anymore, you just wanted to live this boring life, ha ha ha, and somebody just came along and killed you because they knew you'd come back to life because they'd had a bad day, or they were frustrated because they don't like being immortal anymore, it could just keep happening over and over again. Then we have the Hermit. Yeah, with the blob, you're sitting there thinking, you know, I maybe should have put more thought into this. Maybe really studied it and, you know, went off on my own to decide if this was the best thing for me or not. Four of Wands. Yeah, you were once really at home with passionate ideas. Things that just set you aflame, like being a superhero. And now that you are, in a way, because you're immortal, not as much fun as you thought. And here we have the Nine of Wands. Well, this is saying your back is against the wall. You're battered, you're bruised, you're worn, you're just torn up. You've been twisted inside and out. And you want that escape clause. You want to end your immortality. Even if it means you pass away the second it's removed. Which I am assuming that would probably happen. And then what I'm thinking is that the soul probably would return to the body like immediately. Let me pull a card on that one. We'll just leave these lay for a moment. And so the question is going to be, if someone accepted the escape clause and they passed away immediately, would the soul that they've lost return to the body? And I'm called to use this one. Would the soul that they've lost return to the body? You remember we had Kung Fu fighting for the soul would go out fighting? There it is. Okay, so that was a very interesting episode. I am flabbergasted over some of the things that we discovered in here, and probably things that maybe some of us have actually thought about from time to time as, hey, what would happen if I was immortal? Anyway, that is it for this episode, Twilight Zone inspired, episode 6. I have a teaser for you for episode 7 for next week. Next time, we explore the kind of silence that doesn't stay quiet. When isolation stretches too long, what if something in the void wakes up? And what if it doesn't want to let you go? So there's a teaser for episode 7 next week, Twilight Zone inspired. On the screen, there's also the show schedule for you so that you know what time the Twilight Zone inspired episodes are, but also the Fringe and Simpsons prediction show that I do also each week. If you enjoy these readings, go and check those out too. You might have a little bit of fun with that. So I'd like to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today in this episode, and I do hope that you've enjoyed it. I've had fun doing it with you. So until next week, have a great week. Take care.